Howdy. How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing? What do y'all know about Texas? Let's talk about Texas. It's cold here today. It's cold this morning. I'm not gonna go to work. It's just gonna be too cold and windy to paint outside. So, taking the day off. Which is kind of good. I got stuff I need to do. So, hey Ben, Benjamin Button's Burden. Hey Genghis, you know about Texas a little. You've been here, your brother lives here, your mom lives here. Hey Sue, didn't you say your mom lives in Austin? Your brother lives in Houston? They live in the same. They live in the same city. Well, it's kind of big, Genghis. Yeah. Yeah. Second largest state and the second most populous state. Kind of big. You know, the metro area where I live has about, let's see, I think we have around 7 million. Yep, Austin is the capital. We have around 7 million, maybe 8 million in what we call the Dallas metro area. Oh, your mom's just visiting Austin. But your brother lives in Houston. She's not going to visit Houston. uh, and like the London metro area is like, it's like 15 million. Hey, Terry. London's big. Because the DFW metro area, I think, is like, I think it's like fourth or fifth. I think it's fourth in the nation. Yeah, it's slightly northeast. We just call it North Texas. We kind of call northeast more the corner. But yeah, it's North Texas. Yeah, London's big. Because this metro area is pretty big. I think it's number 4, just behind Chicago. But they think it will overtake Chicago. The metro area, not the city, but the metro area. I think it's the number fourth largest in the U.S. It's still like half the size of the London metro area. Although I think in area, I didn't look it up, but I think that the DFW metro area is probably a larger area with 8 million people in it. And I think London is more packed in. So maybe a smaller area with twice as many people. I think. I didn't look that up. But I think it's pretty crowded in London. Not a lot of space. Whereas kind of in the DFW metro area and Dallas Fort Worth, that's what we call it, DFW Metroplex. It's it's a little more spread out. Yeah, I think they're all packed in London. I think it's a smaller metro area in area. Because I know London traffic's probably bad. I know it's bad. Yeah, it's pretty dense. That's what I think. I feel like our metro area is spread out, with 8 million people, and London is tighter with twice as many people. I like that. I like places like Chicago, New York City. New York City, man, they are just, I imagine it's similar to London. They're just packed in. They're so packed in. That's probably how London is, just packed. I was gonna say it'd probably take you like 2 to 3 hours to drive across our metro area, and it might take that much to get across London too. But I think traffic is worse in London. I'm sure it is. Yeah, you're a city person or a country person. Don't miss having a commute there. I bet, Sue. Traffic is a nightmare, isn't it? Hey, Adrian. Yeah, I was watching Ben's channel, How to Roast, and he loved the country too. And I heard Ben's voice, and this is the first voice I heard of any of y'all. And it's weird how you think. Like you just said, you prefer the country, Ben. 50-minute train journey, then tubes to King's Cross. Yeah. to to me, when you say a 50-minute train journey, I think, oh, that's not bad. But it's just different. Well, I would say a majority of people here probably do commute about an hour to work every day. That's pretty much the norm. It's not abnormal. So, and maybe that's not abnormal there either, Sue. But it still sucks, doesn't it? An hour. Hiya, Choppy. The Yeah, so Ben, you don't like the city. You live in Somerset, in what you call a small town, but it's 50,000 people. But you like to fish. You're southern. In my head, all these things add up to a certain U.S. sound. He's kind of country. He likes to fish. He's from the South. And then when I hear you, in my head, it's like a country boy's voice. And then, which is just silly because, why would I attribute like a southern U.S. country sounding voice to Ben? But that's just how the brain works. You think of voices based on the description. And then I heard him speak, and it sounds, is Texas bigger than France? I don't think so. I think they're close, but I think France is bigger. I don't know, Chop. Ben, you're quick at looking stuff up. Is Texas bigger than France? I don't think so. But then I heard Ben's voice, and I know this may sound silly to you, but basically any English accent to Americans sounds kind of posh. I know that it doesn't to you. Texas is nearly as big as Europe. King is, nah, I don't think so. I think Texas is about twice the size as England, right? So it can't be nearly as big as Europe. I don't think so. Anyway, so I hear Ben's voice and it kind of sounds posh to me. Even though I know it's not a posh accent. But it's like, oh, he is British. Then you said water. Something like that. You did drop your R. You dropped your R when you said water. You get confused about being a Geordie? But yeah, I thought the West Country accent I read didn't drop their R's. But when you said, I don't know, I can't repeat it, but you said like, wah, wah, didn't you? It kind of sound like wah. You can fit 42 UKs in 42? I don't think that's right, Kingus. Oh, in the US. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In the US, I was trying to do Texas. Texas is bigger than France, Ben says. So it's pretty close. 20-25% larger. We're a little bigger than France. Yeah. I know, Ben. I know. It does. I know that's kind of crazy, but to say that I think you sound posh. I know it's not the posh British accent. I know that, but to Americans, y'all kind of sound a little fancy. Even accents like the Cockney accent or, you know, the Essex accent. Even those accents that are, I know, not posh. Sounds a little fancy. You're including Mexico with Texas? Oh, okay. You know, when Texas was first a independent republic, it was much bigger. If you look at the map of Texas as a nation, when Texas was first a nation, it was much bigger. They cut down the size of Texas when it became a state. Parts of Texas went all the way up to Idaho when it was first Texas. And cut us down to size, made us much smaller when we finally became a state. Anyway, yeah, I was watching How to Roast last night. Y'all check out Ben's cooking channel. There was a Texas embassy in London. Is there a Texas embassy? I mean, I know there was when we were a nation. I believe Texas did have an embassy in the UK when we were a nation. I believe England was one of the first nations to, I don't know, deal with Texas as a republic, as its own nation. I think England was. Yeah, man, you have like giant bags of spices. What do you buy? You buy 5 pound bag of black pepper? Or a 1 pound bag of garlic powder? You got giant bags of spices. And then I could see your dog anyway. Your dog, was that your dog? A roommate's dog? And it's always weird for Americans to see in your kitchen your laundry machine. And it's always like, I know that's where your laundry is in your kitchen, but whenever I see it, I'm like, it seems so odd. Where do you fold your clothes? Well, I guess you take them out of the washer and you hang them on a line. You don't have a dryer, or do you, Ben? Is that dryer? Is that washer and a dryer? Because we have those. Some people have those. It's just one machine. It's a washer and a dryer. But like I have two machines in my garage. One's a washer, one's a dryer. It's cheaper the big ones off Amazon rather than buying the small pots all the time. And yeah, they was my dogs. Yeah, the one kept drinking. In a couple of videos I was watching, I didn't get through all your videos. When I watch your video, I will comment, so you'll know which ones I've watched. Yeah, buying bulk, much cheaper. It would probably take me forever to get through all that pepper. Terry, you have a dryer and a washing machine in a studio flat, so two different machines. Since I have a dryer in the shed, it's really not use it much because it costs a lot. Yeah, good idea. Yeah, that's funny. So then you would take your clothes out of the washing machine in the kitchen, out to the shed in the dryer if you wanted to use it. Hmm. Whereas like I just pull mine right out of the washer, right into the dryer right next to it. Yeah, Adrian, you're always hanging out your washing in the winter. Yeah, it is nice to hang your clothes outside. But I don't do it very much. Well, I don't even have a line. But my mom used to when I was a kid. I don't have a washing line. Most people don't anymore. But it used to be more prevalent. I guess we just decided collectively it doesn't cost that much to dry. I don't know. Two separate machines right in your kitchen, Terry? Yeah, solar panels first. Separate dryer. Anyway, how to roast? Check out Ben's channel. He made some good fried chicken. You like that panko you mixed in, huh? It does add a certain crispness if you add a little panko in your dredge. And then you can play with the amounts of panko you add. Add more, add less. Hey, keep doing. You should try some different. I know we're talking about how to roast, but I don't care. How to roast, that's Ben's channel. I was watching it last night. He was experimenting with Yorkshire puds. He put some water in his batter. Because I was talking about that. Like, I was like, is that why mine turned out better the first time? And he found out, no, not really. His turned out better without the water. But you should look up and try a few different. You should perfect your Yorkshire puds. And then let me know what's best. Try some different because you used equal parts, liquid and flour. Try mixing that up. Like those other recipes where I was showing it wasn't equal parts. Try mixing it up. Seeing if you can perfect, you know, what works better. Washing in kitchen and dry in your main room next to your fridge freezer. Okay. So your fridge freezer is not in your kitchen. It's in the main room, but kind of like not far. So curious. I am as to how that all works. Most Americans have a full-on laundry room. Matter of fact, I just scheduled Peyton a laundry room. Also done one with a tablespoon of water, and it was the same outcome. Yeah. That's good to know, Ben. I'm going to let Ben perfect his Yorkshire puds, and then I'm going to steal it and make them myself. Yeah, the kitchen's pretty small, Terry, in your flat. Aunt Bessie's ready-made Yorkshire puds. Just heat them up. Yeah, are they good, Adrian? Are they frozen? Do you buy them frozen or are they fresh? My daughter makes fantastic, but she's like, your grandma makes it up as she goes. That's the best way, probably, Sue. Once you really get the hang of exactly The best way is probably just you do it from your hand. See, you're saying you just make plate sized? How do you do that? What do you make a plate sized pudding in? Not a well? Not like a tin? Not as good as, nothing's ever as good as homemade, Adrian. Are they fresh though? They're not frozen? I'm guessing you mean like they're fresh. Yeah, I want to find exactly how to make them, but I'm not good enough yet. See, like your daughter or your grandma too. Just do it off the top of my head. Do it on a cake tin? So then that would be more like how you make toad in the hole, right? Just like in a cake tin. 8-inch shallow cake tins, Sue says. Okay. That sounds kind of good. Is that pretty common? Is that how most people like to make them at home? Then you just have a big one. I think you said commonly still you have them before your meal, or you know what I mean? Good quality eggs. I'm trying to fix my camera. Feels crooked, and then it makes me feel crooked. I love that we just start talking about Yorkshire puddings. It was a sin back in Yorkshire back in the day. Oh, to make them play size like that, Sue? Yeah, I use muffin tins. Although I do know I can get like the wells, bigger ones. But yeah, let's talk about Texas if y'all want a little bit. But yeah, as a starter, right, Sue? We could just probably spend an hour talking about Yorkshire pudding. It's such a simple dish, really, and yet requires precision. Although precision can be off the top of your head if you precisely know how your batter should look. You know what I mean? Like I can do that with a lot of things, especially sauces. I just make sauces. I don't use a recipe. I can tell exactly when it's right. I can play with it as I go. But I'm not there yet. Only Yorkshire pudding. You'd like to try Texas barbecue one day. We are famous for barbecue brisket, as you know. I'm going to make one soon. And I'll show you when I do. I'm going to make one on Easter. Coming soon. And they're kind of pricey to make a big brisket. I'll cook that thing overnight. I'll get up in the night to tend to it. It will be delicious. Generally, in Texas, uh, oak or mesquite is the choice of wood to use to slow cook your brisket. But I do something that I don't tell people because it's kind of sacrilegious. I like to throw in a little bit of fruit wood, cherry or apple, along with my mesquite. And people will say, ah, don't do that. So I don't tell people. I just do it and it's good. Everybody's always like, oh, this is. It's because I like to throw some fruits. And usually apple tree, apple wood, or cherry. I like to add that. It is good, Ben. It is good for smoking. A lot of people are purists, but around here, I'm not a purist. I'm a what tastes best, do it that way. And so that's what I think tastes best. And everyone loves my brisket. But I generally don't tell them that, hey, I threw a little cherry wood in there, threw a little apple wood in, with generally mesquite. Well, they're not pellets or logs. It's kind of logs, I guess. They're small, but not pellets. Well, I got Coleman's gingus, but I'm not gonna put Coleman's on my brisket. That I cannot do. Yeah, I don't use Coleman's. I wouldn't use mustard. I got a special mix I use, and I don't use mustard. We don't do that very much in Texas. Some people do, but Coleman's mustard, it would really stand out. And you want the smoke flavor to be the standout. You don't want to fight with Coleman's mustard as much as I like Coleman's mustard. You don't want to fight it. Yes, chipwood, yeah, Genghis. That's what it is. You don't want those two delicious, bold flavors fighting it out. I might smoke something else with Coleman's, maybe like a chicken. It might be good, but it would definitely, everyone would notice. Like, what is this on my brisket? The Coleman's, it's so bold. It is not our official food, though, the state. It's not our state food, brisket. Do you know what it is? We don't use sweet sauce, Genghis. Sauce on brisket is not, in Texas, it's a dry rub, and the purists are like, don't put sauce on that. So sauce, we do have it, but we're not known for our sauce. We're known for no sauce. Let the meat, it's so juicy, it's so flavorful. Why put sauce on it? Although we do have sauce in Texas. People do put sauce. But sweet sauce would be Memphis barbecue. They're known for their sweet sauce in Memphis barbecue, which is normally pork. Anyway, now we're talking about our official food. You guess some kind of Mexican American meal, or maybe buffalo wings. Buffalo wings come from New York. Buffalo wings come from Buffalo, New York. Diane sauce is great on steak. I'm not sure what that is. The state food in Texas is chili. Chili was invented in Texas. And that's the state food. Ranch sauce? Like ranch dressing, Adrian? No, Texas barbecue. Red wine, cream mustard, and mushrooms. Oh, that does sound good. That would be good on steak, Terry. Red wine, cream mustard, and mushrooms. Yeah, that's delicious. Uh, yeah, chili, invented in Texas. That is our state food. You would think brisket because we're most famous for it, but but chili is Texas state food. We'll talk a little bit about Texas. We can talk about food too. I don't care. So it's the most populous state in the South. It's the second most populous state in the U.S. and it's the second largest state in the U.S. We border Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma and New Mexico. as well as Mexico. And then we have the Gulf of Mexico. We have a large coastline. So those are our borders. We border Oklahoma to the north. I'm only about 2 hours from Oklahoma. Well, less. I'm like just over an hour from the Oklahoma border. Or maybe just under. Alaska's the larger state, Ben, and Alaska is much larger. If you put them side by side, you'll see that Alaska is much bigger. It's huge. Alaska is massive. I don't know how many UKs you could fit in Alaska, but several more than you can in Texas. Alaska's big and empty. Yeah, I could slow smoke a leg of lamb. It'd fall apart. That's what would happen. It would just fall apart. There's so much good fat on a leg of lamb. It would be delicious. Y'all want me to smoke a leg of lamb? It would be great. It would be a good piece of meat to smoke. It would even get more tender than the brisket, if you could believe that. It would get more tender, I guarantee it. So, yeah, and then we border Oklahoma. Our border is a river called the Red River, and then we border Mexico. The river down there is called the Rio Grande, and we border Arkansas, we border Louisiana, and we border New Mexico, and then we have the coastline. On our flag is the single star. You've seen our flag before, right? The single star represents the Republic of Texas. That's why it's on there. We were one time a republic, our own nation, for 10 years. We were admitted in the Union in 1845. So prior to that, 1836 to 1845, Texas was an independent nation. Our capital, like Ginga said, is Austin. Our largest city is Houston. Our largest metropolitan area is Dallas. So the city of Houston is bigger than the city of Dallas, but the metropolitan area, Dallas, is bigger. You ever seen our governor, Greg Abbott? Yeah, have you ever seen the Texas governor? He probably will run for president, I imagine. Probably this time, I'm guessing. You ever seen our governor, Greg Abbott? I'm interested to know. Have you ever seen or heard of our governor? The highest peak in Texas is about 9,000 feet. Yeah, I got an old school friend lives in Arkansas, so if you ever visit, flying to Dallas, yeah. Dallas has an international airport. It's one of the busiest airports in the U.S. American Airlines is one of our larger airlines, and it's headquartered here. And the reason why is because it's centrally located in the U.S. And that makes for a busy airport. And the Dallas-Fort Worth airport is huge. We also have a second airport in Dallas called Love Field. That one's close to me, and you sometimes hear those planes flying right over me. That's Love Field. But our international airport is DFW, and it's massive. You might not know this about Texas. Only 65% of Texans only speak English. Only 65% of us only speak English. About 30% of us speak Spanish or are bilingual. I don't speak Spanish, but to be honest, I almost do. I mean, I can definitely speak broken Spanish. You know what I mean? So maybe not full sentences, but I know enough words to to get the point across of what I'm saying. And I definitely hear Spanish and understand because I hear it so much. And again, the same thing. If I hear a string of words, I can pick out the ones I know, and I can get the idea what they're saying. Most of our signs you heard on the train, too, announcements, our signage, it's all bilingual. And the closer you go, so I'm like, it would take me 8 hours to get to Mexico. If I went to the nearest point of Mexico, 8 or 9 hours driving for me to get to the border. Uh, so I'm pretty far away. But the closer you get, the more, and you can find whole towns and cities in Texas where no one speaks English, or almost no one. But most of the Mexicans are bilingual. Only 65% of Texans speak only English. So yeah, we got a lot of Spanish going on. We have Texas covers 2 time zones. Parts of Texas are in the central time zone, parts are in the mountain time zone. So we're not even in one time zone. I'll read you some of our state. Yeah, Choppy, I got a live stream where I took everybody. You can rewatch the live stream if you want, Choppy, where I took everybody. John Kennedy was shot. I saw it yesterday, Choppy. I see it I see it like weekly, at least. I see the place where Kennedy was shot. I just saw it yesterday and the day before. Right now I'm passing by it every day on my way to work. Yesterday was crowded, and Saturday. There's a lot of people gathered around where JFK was shot. The building's still there. I see it all the time. There's an X in the street right where he was shot. So, our state bird is the mockingbird. Do y'all have mockingbirds? That's our state bird. Our state fish is the Guadalupe bass. Our state flower is the bluebonnet, and they're lovely and they're starting to bloom right now. And the bluebonnets bloom all over the state, especially in the area. Well, they don't bloom in the desert, but in the areas where I live, where it's prairie lands and grasslands, the bluebonnets just cover everything in a field of blue. It's magnificent. They're blooming now, this time of year. That's our state flower. Our state mammals, we have 2, the Texas longhorn and the armadillo. We have a state reptile. It's the horny toad. No, our state flower is the bluebonnet. Choppy. You might think it's the yellow rose of Texas. That is a song. But our state flower is the bluebonnet. Do the mockingbirds talk to people? No, they mock us, Terry. Y'all have mockingbirds? Mockingbirds mock other birds. So they make all kinds of sounds. They might sound like a blue jay. They might sound like a crow. Mexican free-tailed bat. I think that is sometimes listed as one of our animals. Yeah, they copy voices or sounds. That's why they're called mockingbirds. It's kind of cool. They don't copy people voices, but they often, you'll hear a bird go off and you know what that bird is, and then you'll hear another bird and you look at it, it's a mockingbird. Just, you gotta kill a mockingbird. But yeah, they kind of copy other bird sounds. I don't know why. They also kind of have their own call, so they don't always do that. Well, we have a MLS team in north in a city of north of here, Chappie, and they're called the Dallas Football Club. So, but they actually play in a city called Frisco, Dallas FC. Yeah, they don't say hello or anything like that. So, Jerry, they mostly just mock other sounds they hear from other birds. Let's see, our tree is the pecan tree. Yeah, yeah, African great parrot, they cluck like a chicken. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Uh, yeah, the pecan tree is our state tree. Chili is our state food. Dominoes is our state game. We have all kinds of weird stuff. What do y'all think our state sport is? We actually have an official state sport. Any guesses? So, Texas, the word, as I believe Genghis said before, it means friendly. And it was originally Tesha or Tejas. No, it's not baseball. No, it's not the gridiron. Uh, so it comes from a Spanish word. Uh, the Spanish called, it's an Indian mixed Spanish word. It's hard to explain where Texas the word comes from. Yeah, we have a state everything in Texas. Rodeo, that's right. You spelled it wrong, Adrian, but rodeo is our Texas state sport. Rodeo, yep, rodeo. Yeehaw. We used to have a rodeo every weekend in a couple of the small towns where I live. But yeah, the word, it's a Caddo word, has to do with the Caddo word Texa, and then the Spanish interpreting it Tejas or Texas. That's where the name comes from. And it means friendly. And it was how the Spanish, who used to rule Texas originally, uh, referred to it as the Caddo word Texa, meaning friendly, that they translated into Tejas. So it's kind of a combination of Spanish and Caddo Indian. Uh, so yeah, Spain initially settled here. There was several different Native American uh, tribes. I'm trying to look them up here. They were both in the area or moved to the area. Uh, so a lot of Native Americans, they pushed west. So they weren't originally from here, but they ended up coming here, if that makes sense. So these Native American tribes would have been the Alabama, the Apache, the Atakapan, the Bidai, the Caddo, the Arania, the Comanche, the Choctaw, the Coshada, the Hassani, the Jumano, the Karklawa, the Kickapoo, the Kiowa, the Tonquwa, and the Wichita are all Indian tribes that either were originally from here, mostly originally were the Caddo Indians, but then later a bunch of these other Native Americans came here. You know, the fake mechanical rodeo thing. So you went on one. How'd you do? You don't think you'd do the real thing, Ben? Apparently they all migrated over from Asia. Native Americans. Yeah, I mean, I've been on bulls and mechanical bulls. Neither one for very long. You know, A rodeo bull is different than, I've never been on a rodeo bull, but I grew up around ranches and bulls. We might hop on the bull that was just in the pasture. And a lot of times, sometimes, that bull might be pretty docile and not even care. just sit there. And sometimes they'll kind of move around enough and you can't hold on. Even for a minute. There's nothing to hold on to if they decide. I've never been tossed from a bull or nothing like that, but those rodeo bulls, those are mean. And they're also, you know what they're trying to do, right? If you watch the rodeo bull, you'll see this strap and it goes around the torso down by their manhood, and they're trying to kick that thing off. And it's uncomfortable to the bull. The rodeo bull's in discomfort. They're not only trying to get the guy off their back, but they're kicking because of that strap around their torso. And they want to get that off. And that's how a bull would get that off. Just start kicking around. They're not. They're made to be. They want a rodeo bull to really kick, because you have to stay on for 8 seconds, and then if you stay on for 8 seconds, then you're judged by the judges on a scale of 1 to 10. So if you're in a rodeo, you might be the only one to stay on the bull for 8 seconds. You win. But if there's multiple riders, and there often is, that stay on the bull for 8 seconds, then you're judged. And if the bull doesn't kick very much, you're going to get a low score. But if the bull kicks a lot, you might get a high score. Been on a mechanical bull. It's hard to stay on a mechanical bull. It really is. The second it changes direction, boom, you fall. At least I do. You're mowing the lawn across the street, sorry, y'all. No, we don't do that. Bullfighting, Ben? No, we don't do that. Spain. I think it's illegal here. They used to do it because Spain brought it to Mexico, and then Mexico brought it to Texas. But I think that's been illegal in the U.S. for quite a while. Yeah, real ones are so unpredictable. Anyway, so a lot of Native Americans here. I was going to talk about the Texas in the Old West, but we spent a lot of time talking about. How about this? Y'all know of any famous people from Texas? Running of the bulls in Spain? Sorry, they're mowing the lawn across the street. Do you know anyone famous from Texas? Larry Hagman is from Texas, that's right, Adrian. Larry Hagman is from Texas. He played J.R. Ewing on the TV show Dallas. And he was born in Fort Worth, Texas. John Wayne and Johnny Cash are not from Texas. Isn't Johnny Cash from Tennessee? I don't know. I think he's from somewhere around there. I'm not sure about John Wayne. Can't think off the top of my head. I'll tell you some. Here's some of the top actors from Texas. Tommy Lee Jones, Matthew McConaughey, Forrest Whitaker, Robin Wright, Gary Busey, Larry Hagman, Ethan Hawke, Renee Zellweger, Jamie Foxx, Bill Paxton, Woody Harrelson, Lou Diamond Phillips, Eva Longoria, Beyonce, Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson, Dennis Quaid, Randy Quaid, Angie Harmon, Jennifer Garner, Patrick Swayze, Farrah Fawcett, Powers Booth, Carol Burnett, Morgan Fairchild, Debbie Allen, Thomas Hayden Church, Dabney Coleman, Sissy Spacek, Debbie Reynolds, Jacqueline Smith. That's just a few of them. Yeah, I believe David Arquette, Buddy Holly, George Foreman. That's right, Choppy, George Foreman. Those are all famous actors. There's more, but those are just kind of some big names that I thought you might recognize. Uh, if you want to go to athletes, some famous athletes from Texas. You heard of about 80% of them, Sue. Athletes like Nolan Ryan. I don't know, is James Dean from Texas, Choppy? I don't think so. I'm not sure, but I never heard that. James Dean was from Texas. I don't think so. They filmed the movie Giant. His last movie was filmed in Texas. With Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, and James Dean were in the movie Giant. I don't think James Dean is born or from Texas. Simone Biles, the Olympian, she's from Texas. Earl Campbell, you probably don't know him, but he's a famous NFL player. George Foreman, he's from Houston. Another NFL player, Joe Green, he's a Hall of Famer. He's born and bred in Texas. Grant Hill, a famous basketball player, also from Texas. Shaquille O'Neal, also from Texas. Dennis Rodman, he's another famous basketball player. The famous jockey, I don't know if you've heard of him, but Willie Shoemaker. He became a giant in thoroughbred horse racing. Probably the most famous U.S. jockey. He's from Texas. Liz Taylor was British. Roger Staubach, he was an NFL player. He's from Texas. Michael Strahan. The list goes on. Patrick Mahomes, he's the NFL quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Oh yeah, James Dean is from Indiana. I thought so. The list goes on for Texas athletes. A lot of them, I think you probably don't know, because Texas sends a ton of athletes to the NFL. Texas and Florida produce the most NFL players. And I don't know if you know about them, you know what I mean? The only U.S. jockey you've heard of, yeah, Sue. He's famous, Willie Shoemaker. He's from Texas. He is the most famous one in the U.S. for sure. No one's even close. I don't think most Americans can name any other jockey except for Shoemaker. So, but we produce a lot of NFL players, and we have a lot of famous NFL teams. How about bands? Scooter Lee, the country singer. Yeah, when you start talking about musicians, Texas produces a lot of country acts. But here's some singers from Texas. I don't know if you've heard of them. Edie Brickell. No, Dolly's not from Texas. She's from Tennessee. Edie Brickell. I don't know if you know who that is. Polyphonic Spree, the Old 97s. England Dan and John Ford Cooley. You ever heard of England Dan? They sing a song from the 70s called I'd Really Love to See You Tonight. The Toadies are from Fort Worth. Yeah, ZZ Top is from Texas. I'm trying to talk over them just blowing leaves. It's driving me crazy. Yeah, ZZ Top's from Texas. Dolly Parton's from Tennessee. The Toadies is a famous rock band from Fort Worth. Christopher Cross, if you know who that is. Yeah, you remember England Dan? He's from Texas. The band's from Texas. Let's see. Christopher Cross, he's a Grammy Award-winning singer. Jerry Jeff Walker, famous country musician. Mac Davis, famous country musician. This list is huge. I'm trying to read the ones you might know. Nora Jones, she's from Dallas. Barbara Mandrell, she's a country singer. Kelly Clarkson, she's from the Fort Worth area. The Dixie Chicks, Usher, if you know Usher. Yeah, he's from Texas. This list just goes on and on and on. I mean, there's so many that there's no way I can read all of these. Bands like the Steve Miller Band. That's right, Christopher Cross sang Arthur's theme. When you get caught between this, called yeah, it's called Arthur's theme, but when you get caught between the moon and New York City. The Dixie Chicks. You like Tennessee because Dolly's from Tennessee. Yeah, she's famous for being. Dollywood is in where she's from. Her amusement park. It's in Tennessee. Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. That is where Dolly Parton's from. That's where Dollywood is. But bands like the Steve Miller Band, if you know the Steve Miller Band, tons of hits. It just goes on and on and on. I can't read all those, but a lot of bands and musicians come from Texas. Stevie Ray Vaughan is like a Texas icon. If you know, do anyone know who Stevie Ray Vaughan is? He's almost like a god in Texas. Yeah, Steve Miller Band, The Joker, and tons of other hits. They're from Athens, Texas. Steve Miller is from a city called Athens, Texas. Not far from Dallas. It's a ton of famous Texans. Never heard of Stevie Ray Vaughan? If you haven't heard of Stevie Ray Vaughan, oh man, so he's a blues singer, a magician with a guitar. He does a great version of Superstition by, if you know the Stevie Wonder song, Superstition, you know that song's got a real deep bass group, boom, 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 boom. It's really funky. Stevie Ray Vaughan does a version of that that'll blow your mind. It will blow your mind. If you know the song Superstition by Stevie Wonder, look up Stevie Ray Vaughan's version. He's a blues musician. He's a white guy. And he does a version of Superstition that'll blow your mind. So Texas has its own type of blues. It's called Texas Boogie Woogie. Texas Boogie Woogie is bands like ZZ Top. If you like ZZ Top, you might like Stevie Ray Vaughan. That's called Texas Boogie Woogie. If you ever heard of the band The Fabulous Thunderbirds, do you know they had a big hit called, let's see, got a little change in my pocket going jingle, jingle, jingle. You never heard that song, maybe? That's the Fabulous Thunderbirds. They're a Texas Boogie Woogie band. Dr. Hook, I'm not sure, Chumpy. I thought Louisiana, but I'm not sure about that. I thought Dr. Hook, Louisiana, but could be Texas. So Stevie Ray Vaughan plays Texas Boogie Woogie. He came up out of Austin, and he died in a helicopter crash too soon while he was kind of making his way big. And that helicopter crash, he was leaving Dallas. And so that immortalized him, and he became like, in Texas, he's like, you know what I mean? No one speaks ill of Stevie Ray Vaughan in Texas. He plays Texas Boogie Woogie. Galveston is in Texas. It is an island in Texas. Another popular song he does is called The Sky is Crying, and it will rip your heart out. Stevie Ray Vaughan, The Sky is Crying. It'll rip your heart out. Gone too soon, Stevie Ray Vaughan. He might have been more famous. He would have been if he hadn't died in a helicopter crash. Galveston is an island in off the coast of Texas, named after Galvez, the explorer, I believe, who found the island. Spanish explorer Galvez, I believe, found Galveston Island. And Galveston Island was a port for pirates, the most famous, Lafayette. Lafayette used to hide out in Galveston Bay. It's down near Houston on the Texas coast. Galveston. I'm going a little over. I don't got to work. I got more information. I'm going to keep going a little bit. I was just going to briefly talk about Texas, the Old West, right? That's kind of the interesting part of Texas, is the Old West era from like 1865 to 1900. Texas was gripped by violence as outlaws, rustlers, and fugitives clashed with sheriffs, settlers, and the Texas Rangers across a frontier defined by violence and rough justice. So in that time period, 1865 to 1900, it was like a lawless land. Over in Fort Worth is what's called Hell's Half Acre, which is like a half acre of anything goes. You know, the outlaws ruled. It was the Wild West. It was crazy up in here, y'all. But there's just a lot of crime and not a lot of enforcement of the law. Things like stagecoach holdups, bank robberies, train heists, horse theft, cattle rustling, they're all kind of rampant. Maybe you've heard of some of these famous Texas outlaws like Sam Bass. He was a train and stagecoach robber. They carried out a string of robberies around here in Dallas, focusing on trains, banks, and stagecoaches. It triggered a statewide manhunt. They were on the lookout for Sam Bass. He was ambushed in Round Rock, Texas, down by Austin in 1878 in a shootout with the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers were lawmen that had free reign. They were trying to hunt down all these. They eventually did, around 1900, got a hold of things. But Bass got in a shootout, was mortally wounded, died 2 days later. How about John Wesley Hardin? He's an early Texas serial killer, born in Bonham, Texas. He killed his first man at age 15. Over the next 10 years, he was involved in numerous shootings. He claimed to kill more than 20 people. Unlike many outlaws of the area, Hardin was not a thief or a robber. His violence was largely personal or political. In 1895, he was shot in the back of the head at Acme Saloon by Constable John Selman. How about some of the more famous ones? This list goes on. Let's see if I can find someone you might have heard of. This one you probably heard of. Now, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or what was called the Wild Bunch. Let's see, Cassidy, wasn't it? I think Cassidy, one of them's mother was Scottish, right? I think so. I don't know if it says in this article, but I read that before. Yeah, I think Butch Cassidy has Scottish ties. The Sundance Kid's name was Harry Longabout. So here's their story from the 1890s to 1900. So they're on the tail end. You know, things are starting to get more modernized. Around that time, cars were starting to come about in the early 1900s. So this is 1890 to 1900s. While most of the Wild West outlawry had faded by the turn of the century, remnants of organized banditry persisted. Among the most notorious was the Wild Bunch, a loosely affiliated group led by Butch Cassidy and his companion, the Sundance Kid, better known as Harry Longabout. Though most of their activity took place in the Rocky Mountain states, members of the gang occasionally operated or passed through Texas. Their robberies were notable not only for their daring, but for their coordination and use of modern tools, telegraphs, trains, and updated firearms. Cassidy and the Sundance Kid famously evaded capture for years, with reports of their movements stretching from the Dakotas to Texas. Um, Eventually, they fled to Argentina, and they passed through Texas to do that. They posed of a photograph that was later obtained by the Pinkerton Detective Agency and used in wanted posters. They were killed in a shootout in Bolivia in 1908. Isn't that crazy? A member of their gang, Ben Kilpatrick, was a Texas native. Eventually, Texas Rangers got a hold of things. There's a lot of hanging. And by the early 1900s, Texas came under a little more control, but for a good period of time there, it was just lawless around here. Yeah, a lot of Western movies were made at times in these history. I have mentioned before, I believe, over in Fort Worth, where there's still a saloon that exists. It's called the White Elephant, where you can still see shootout bullet holes in the walls. You know. So yeah, the history of the Wild West still exists around here. There's ghost towns. There's a lot of that. Man, I didn't even get to. Y'all want to talk about the Dallas TV show? Yeah, y'all like the Dallas TV show? It's kind of what's famous for around here. Adrian, you mentioned it. Uh, I was going to talk about that a little bit, but I'm going long already. The most famous thing about the Dallas TV show was the cliffhanger from season, I think, 3 it was, where the main character, J.R. Ewing, played by Larry Hagman, who was from Texas, was shot. J.R. was shot in the final moments of a season 3 cliffhanger, and then all summer long, the question was, who shot J.R.? Who shot him? They didn't show the shooter. They just showed the gun rise up, shot J.R. He goes down. End of episode. End of season. All summer long, who shot J.R.? Who shot J.R.? It was a big deal. Larry Hagman was on the cover of Time magazine, which was a big deal. The shower scene with Patrick Duffy was a big deal. That was later, I think, season 8. They, so the actor, yeah, Patrick Duffy was an actor that played Bobby Ewing, and he had left the show. And for a whole season, he wasn't on the show. He went to go do acting in movies, and then he came back to the show, and they killed him. They killed his character. When he left, they killed his character, and then he decided to come back. So they wrote an episode where he steps out of a shower. He's supposed to be dead, and the whole season was just a dream. His wife had a dream, and they said that whole season didn't happen. It was just a dream. That way they could write Patrick back into the show and forget about his death. You remember the hype of who shot JR, Sue? Yeah, you remember who shot JR. It was a big scene. Yeah, the Patrick Duffy thing, it was all just a dream. Last season, forget all that. Yeah, it's ridiculous, Duffy. Forget that we killed off Patrick Duffy's character, Bobby Ewing, who was JR's brother. We killed him off, and then he was gone for a whole year. And now forget that. It was just a dream. It was ridiculous. But that was later. That was like season 8. Season 3, the JR thing, the TV show was at its height. Yeah, that would annoy you, Ben, right? Yeah, that was at the end of Dallas when it was starting to fade. I think it was on like 9 seasons, maybe 10. That was around season 8. when they decided, oh, forget that season. But early on, season 3, they did this JR thing. It was huge. Who shot JR? Now, today, if you ask people who did shoot JR, right? Because it was a big deal. Everybody wanted to know. And if you ask people now, who did shoot him? No one knows. No one remembers. I had to look it up. No one remembers the answer. We all wanted to know, but as soon as we got the answer, we just forgot. It was one of his girlfriends. He was married, but he was always having a mistress. It was just one of his girlfriends was mad and shot him. Yeah, that's right. Kristen, that was her name. I looked it up, but I forgot. Yeah. How did you know that, Sue? It was, I can tell you exactly. Because, yeah, it's funny how we don't care anymore. Her name was, what's her name? I don't know. I've lost it, but yeah, it was just an angry girlfriend. No, it wasn't Sue Ellen. It wasn't his wife. It was a minor character. It was just a minor character. It was one of his girlfriends. There's a lot of speculation that it was Sue Ellen. That was his wife. But it wasn't. Once we had a litter of cats when I was a kid, and we named them all after the Dallas characters. Had a cat named Sue Ellen. Had a cat named JR. Had a cat named Pamela. Cliff Barnes, Genghis. Cliff Barnes was kind of a villain on the show, and he was they eventually, so the patriarch of the show's name is Jock Ewing, and he was supposed to be this real good guy, but eventually I believe they decided that Cliff Barnes was Jock's bastard son. I think so. So he was one of the brothers, but he was a bastard half brother. I don't think he was introduced as that, but they wrote him that way eventually. And he was kind of a villain. But yeah, Sue, you dredged that up. You must have watched it a little bit, because it was someone named Kristen. South Fork does exist, Choppy. It's about 2-hour drive from Dallas. You can visit South Fork. It does exist. Uh, and there's a couple of buildings. They're actually in North Dallas. They were in the opening shots. They're gold towers. And in the opening shots, they look kind of tall, but they're not that tall. And I could walk to those buildings. I mean, they're not that far from me, but they're not downtown. Those do exist as well, and they're still there. They're right on Highway 75. And they're gold, these gold towers. They're still there. Still office buildings. I know I've gone long, but I was going to go over one more thing if y'all are still maybe interested. Just to tell you a little bit about Texas. Now, Texas has large forests, okay, and large grasslands and large coastal plains, and that makes up about half the state. Then about a little less than the other half, so maybe less than half, but almost half, would be more desert and canyon country, or high plains, some of it is. So it's more barren, and that would be areas of the state that are western, and then right on the edge of the western part, it's mountainous. Now, I didn't really watch Dallas that much, Kings. I don't remember anything about it. I mean, not that much. I was young, and I didn't really watch it that much. I mean, I guess I was a teenager, but I wasn't that into Dallas. But I do remember because it was such in the zeitgeist. I remember some things. And I probably watched it a little bit, but when you're a teenage kid, you don't care. I didn't care about Dallas. It's just a soap opera. Uh, so that's kind of the layout of Texas. Along the eastern border, it's very forested, and then or on the northeastern border, it's forested, and it goes down into the swamps along the as it gets closer to the coast. Uh, and then it's mountainous out on the very western tip, and it's kind of desert in between, and then we have coastal plains. I've lived all over the state. To give you an idea, I've lived in Dallas. I've lived in a city called Dangerfield when I was a kid. It's called Dangerfield. The population was about 1,200 people when I lived there. And then I lived in Central Texas also. I'm giving you these in order, kind of. I lived in a town called Rockdale. It's in Central Texas. So Dangerfield's in East Texas. It's Piney Woods. I lived there from like age 6 to I don't know, 7 or 8. I lived in Rockdale, Texas. It's in Central Texas. It's a town of about 2,000 people. Then I lived in a city called Lamarck. It's French. It means the spot. And it is between Houston and Galveston. So it's about a 15-minute drive from Galveston Island. So I lived in that area when I was in high school. Now, I lived in the Dallas area several times when I was a little kid from like age 2 to 6. We lived in the Dallas area, or maybe more like 2 to 5, 2 to 6. And then I moved away to these small towns, and then I moved back in high school. But I started high school in Lamarck, down between Houston and Galveston. I've lived in Waco, Texas. What do y'all know about Waco? Y'all have heard of Waco? Whenever heard of Waco, Texas? It's right in the north central Texas. I lived in Edinburgh. It's pronounced Edinburgh, spelled just like Edinburgh. That's down on the Mexican border. I have been to Mexico several times, in several different places in Mexico, but I have been to most all of the Mexican border towns that are pretty big and famous. These are towns like Matamoros, Piedras Negras, and Reynosa. These are Mexican border towns that I've visited. Matamoros is right across the border from Brownsville, Texas, which is on the very tippy tip at the bottom. Is Brownsville. Right across is a major Mexican city called Matamoros. Then when I lived in Edinburgh, Texas, across the border there is Reynosa, and it's a big Mexican border town. And then I've also visited Piedras Negras, which is a Mexican border town. It means black rocks, and it's my favorite. It's kind of small. A Mexican border town is very unique. They're very tourist driven. No, Waco wasn't the Texas Chainsaw Massacres, but Waco is famous for something else, and I thought you might get it. I did live in Waco. I went to college in Waco, or university, what you call university. They use sound vibrations to drive out a cult? No, Genghis. They shot them to death. They did not use sound vibration. This is what I was talking about. Waco's famous for the David Koresh. He was a guy who claimed to be God, David Koresh. There was a cult down in Waco. They were purported, and they did have weapons, including hand grenades. This cult was heavily armed. The government went down there after it escalated. They tried to get the cult out. They wouldn't leave. Things got worse and worse and worse. Eventually, they surrounded the cult. I believe they even had a tank. Yeah, they had a tank. and they opened fire and set that place on fire and burned all the women and children and everyone that was there, members of the cults. They were heavily armed, the cult was, but, and I believe the cult had fired, but in kind of like, they got surrounded. They were, I don't know. I don't know. They could have been defending themselves. They were a little crazy, the cult. The guy thought he was God, David Koresh. This all took place in Waco, but they might have used sound machines at first. They tried several things. Eventually, they used a tank, which kind of seemed like overkill. You know what I mean? Maybe these people were crazy, but these women and children burned alive. You know what I mean? These children were innocent, for sure. But that did happen in Waco. They've made movies about it. David Koresh. Anyway, I did live in Waco. I did live in Weslaco, which is on the border. I've lived in San Antonio, which is a beautiful city. I have lived in Austin, and I have lived in a place called College Station, which is where Texas A&M University is. That's in the central part. And I've driven all across Texas, north, south, east, west. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cities I've lived in. 12 if you count Dallas and Fort Worth separate, are all over in different parts of Texas. And so I've been all around. And in case you want to come and visit, Ben, I would suggest you head to Port Aransas, where I believe is the best coastal fishing in Texas. Port Aransas. Book your flight today. Again, I'll meet you down there. It's where I've had the best luck coastal fishing. We'll get us some red snapper. Or we go out on a boat and go for grouper, if you want. All right, I should wrap things up. I went way over, and I didn't even get to a lot of the stuff that I was talking about. We do have a large national forest and national preservation areas that you can roam, and you can wild camp, and it's free. These national forests are similar to what you would call a national park, where it's wide open, but there are businesses, there are houses, there, yeah. Well, they have boats, Ben. They have boats. Get on a boat. But so national forest, we do have those in Texas, and they're cool. You do need a permit usually to like wild camp, but you can just roam. National forests are cool. We do have one national park in Texas, and that is Big Bend National Park. That's where our Texas mountains are. And this time of year is glorious with the wildflowers in the mountains of Texas in Big Bend, B-E-N-D. It's a bend in the Rio Grande River where the mountains are, and it's a national park. Now, we also have state parks. They're all over the state. They're managed by the state, not by the U.S. But we have one national park, and I don't know, we got a ton of state parks. And they're good for fishing, camping, hiking. We have a lot of state parks. Anyway, let's talk. I don't know why I decided let's talk about Texas, because I guess Ben was asking me about it yesterday in the live stream. But yeah, Ben, don't you want to come be a painter? Be my business partner. We can paint and fish. You can paint sometimes and fish most of the time. I'm inviting all y'all. Come on. You can all work for me if you can paint. And yeah, we do have a varied landscape. We have deserts, we have plains, we have coastal, we have mountains, we have forest. Yeah, Ben, sounds great. Start swimming today. But good to see you all. Genghis, Ben, Adrian, Terry. Try to watch some more how to cook or how to roast. Ben's channel, how to roast. Try to catch up some today. Uh, but yeah, good to see you. Cheers, Terry, Genghis, Ben, Choppy, Sue, everybody. Everybody. It was here. I don't know. Adrian, yeah, I think I said Adrian, Choppy, Ben, Sue, Terry. Yeah, all y'all. Genghis. All y'all. Everybody. Uh, cheers to y'all. Have a good day. Waiting from Dallas, Texas, signing out.